Good evening and welcome to this AMA with Granton. It's October 2025 and we're thrilled to have Deb. G'day, Deb from Granton.
Hello, Matt.
Hey. Hopefully Deb's coming up on screen as we do that awkward intro moment. My name's Matt Hooper and I'm here representing all things blockchain tonight. We're going to go through a few upcoming events and also some ones we just ran recently in Singapore, and then we're going to get into a discussion on building building startups, I should say, in Web3 with Deb and delving into her 10+ years experience, not only building, but also helping startups to get funding. We're going to hear a little bit about the Granton story as well and what Granton actually is. That's me, a really nice photo of me there. I'm the chairperson and co-founder of All Things Blockchain, and we build community in the Web3 space. That's what we exist to do. We're a non-profit association. We run in-person events, grassroots events all the way around Australia. We've got events coming up in Sydney, Melbourne, just done some in Singapore, and we're going to be in Hong Kong in February as well. We've got some stats that are building all the time. We've got about 12 in-person events that we run each year. We're up to around, depending which way we count the numbers, we're up to around 7,000 or 8,000 members now across Meetup and Luma, and also our mailing list. So we are continuing to grow, and running the events in Singapore certainly helped with that. There is a small team working behind the scenes to keep all this pumping away. We've got general counsel, we've got events experts, people scheduling social media, and also graphic designers as well, a website manager and others. With thanks to all our sponsors, we have a raft of sponsors, both international and Australian-based companies, from exchanges to law firms, an R&D grants firm that's pretty cool called Granton, and we've got Earnscape and Nexa up there. Nexa is a layer 1, Earnscape is a mobile streaming platform. OKX, yep, OKX is one of ours as well. Thank you, Jack. That's the newsletter. We've got about 1,500 subscribers on Paragraph, where we go out at the moment, and we have a monthly newsletter. It highlights events in the Web3 space, not just our events, but events that we think are interesting that are going on really anywhere in the world. Everything from Paris Blockchain Week to stuff that's going on in Miami, and it could be anywhere. And speaking of that, we are thrilled to announce a couple of collaborations we've got going on with Paris Blockchain Week. You can get a discount for Paris Blockchain Week using our little code ATB15. And I think we've got a similar code for Consensus, where we're definitely going to be there in Hong Kong in February and hopefully in Miami in May of next year. You can get a little discount of 15% off to Consensus, which on like a $500 or $600 ticket is actually, yeah, it's no small amount. So that's kind of cool. We collaborate with a whole heap of different organizations, everyone from the Digital Economy Council to Stand With Crypto Australia, Evolve Her, which is a social impact program for women, and we're generally working with a lot of different organizations. We have an education hub which we're building out. This has evergreen content, including a recent boot camp that one of our founders, Danielle Marie, ran. The 8-week boot camp brought a whole heap of intermediate, basic and advanced education in trading and general Web3 knowledge. And events. So a quick recap of what we've just done. We ran 3 events in one day on the sidelines of Token 2049. We ran a yoga event to kick things off in the morning, sponsored by BC Game there. They're very, very loud sponsoring, and the Orange Crocodile. Then we moved on to She Connects, which is a social impact event for primarily women and male allies, and that was really successful. We had about 60 or 70 people at that one. And then we went on to, around midday, we had a GameFi event sponsored by our Layer 1 Nexa and Earnscape, that mobile gaming, mobile streaming platform that I talked about before that sits on top of also another Layer 1. Really exciting event. We had about 110 people at that on the Tuesday up in Singapore. The roadshow continues. We've got a side event before, it's actually during Oz CryptoCon on the Saturday night. That's just about to be announced. We're running an event with Kraken Exchange, and we've also got an event the week following down in Melbourne before the Blockies. It's an industry level event that's going to be on the 27th of November before the Blockies Awards ceremony by Decca. Our next and final AMA for this year will be with Swift. decks. This one I've just launched today. We are going to be having a look at product, how they do their product design behind the scenes. So it's going to be a bit of a different chat from just talking about exchanges and what the exchange does in terms of technology, but we're going to have a look at how they build what they do. So that's going to be really exciting. Really quickly, we've got another event inside of AusCryptoCon. We'll have a She Connects women's focus event.
Yeah,
That's going to be on the Sunday morning. And speaking of AusCryptoCon, you can get another 15% discount if you want to go down to Sydney. That's on November 22 and 23. You can use that ATB15 code again. Blockies is coming up the week after that for those who are interested in what's going on in the Australian industry. That's our sort of glamour, glitzy award night that they have for industry players and DECA members. And then finally, we're going to have the traditional ATB Christmas party with our good friend Ben Killen from Finsightful. That'll be on the 1st. We're going to get in nice and early before Christmas party silly season really gets into gear and do that early in December. So there's quite a bit to go through there. I should have mentioned on the way through that you can find out more about all of our events by clicking on these QR codes for the Luma calendars. And quite a few of you, welcome to you tonight. You've come through from Luma, which is really exciting. So actually a quick shout out in the chat from what city you're actually from. It'd be handy to know and interesting to know what city in the world you're dialing in from. But really, tonight is all about Deb, and we're going to tear into her background and her experience.
Well, welcome everyone. So I'm Deb, for those that don't know me. I run a company called Granton. So Granton, really super simple. We just work with startups. We started initially with Web3 startups, but we've grown way beyond that. And we help startups apply for grants, R&D tax incentives, and pretty much any sort of commercializing of your IP. That's really where we sit. Really, this story began with Web3 when I was working for Damien King back at Pummel, which was a really interesting Web3 startup. I was a chief operations officer for a move to earn company, and it was really interesting. We went through the height of token launches and liquidity stuff and NFTs and crypto dumps and all sorts of stuff. And I learned a hell of a lot. And from there, really saw an opportunity when a lot of the Web3 founders I was meeting were struggling to get funding and didn't really know what they could do and what they could apply for. And because I used to work in corporate tax law, I decided to then create Granton. And from there, it's just been one hell of a ride. So we work with Web3 companies, and now we've got companies that make toothpaste and farming tech and all sorts of stuff. So
How many clients have you had? You've got
it's a
quite
very exciting thing.
Your client list is in the tens, isn't it? Like tens, if not hundreds?
We've got 50 plus right now that we are helping with R&D tax, and we've got around 150 that we help with grants on and off. But something that I'm very, very much working towards is building tools now for startups. So rather than being a service business, I'd like to get into the tech business. So we are building grant tracking tools and matching tools and even a grant writer called Grantly. So
That's great.
that's coming very soon.
Is that domain available? Have you got that?
Well, right now it's grantly.granton.io.
Okay,
So,
okay. Yeah.
love those subdomains, and that's something that is good for everyone to know as well. You don't necessarily have to get a domain. That's like the thing. Just rapid testing. Just get a subdomain if you have a website already, and you can just
But
test
yeah,
it super quickly.
just for those who might be dialing in internationally, Deb, can you give us a little bit of color about the Australian context? Because I'm assuming most of we'll focus on the grant story a bit first, but most of the work I'm assuming you've done is chasing money that's for Australian. Is that correct?
At the moment, yeah. So we focus at the moment on federal and state funding. So in Australia, there's lots of programs that are for innovative companies or starting companies. If you're at any stage of like the idea to commercialization, that's perfect for funding. So you can get lots of different funding programs and apply to those. And we assist startups with finding them and applying for them, because applying to grants is really annoying, and a lot of companies don't have the time for that. So
I imagine there is quite a lot of admin, quite a lot of paperwork.
a lot, yeah. And you also have to build a narrative. Like, I've been doing this a long time now, and it's not as simple as just filling in whatever you want. you really have to craft a compelling narrative for why you should get the funding versus someone else who's going to save 100 children from dying, or is going to plant 1,000 trees in like a rural community. It's like you really have to draft something really strong and compelling. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. So we've
Yeah.
got a very good success rate, and that's why the company is where it's at right now, and I'm very proud of that. And so what we're doing now with Grantly is we have all of this knowledge that is now training its own, like an LLM on how to write these really strong grants, so that one day you don't have to use me or anyone else. You can just get a grant application written in 30 seconds
It's
as
very
opposed
interesting.
as opposed to like 20 hours.
I don't know if you've seen the tool that Johnny Perovich has released, which does queries around. I'm going to missell it here, but it's using LLM behind the scenes to create tailored like Web3 legislation queries. So it's actually
Mm,
helping to pull together, I don't know if it'll actually, if it's classified as advice. I'm sure there are a lot of disclaimers, but
yeah.
it sounds like you've done a similar thing where you're, attacking publicly available sources and then using the knowledge that you have and the tool has to
Yeah, that's right.
craft responses in an automated way.
That's it. Well, these days when you can prompt AI anything, like, if you have a conversation with ChatGPT right now, or even DeepSeek or Claude, whatever, you can actually, like, your responses are okay, but you're only going to get the responses as good as your prompt. So then when you're chatting to very customized LLMs, which are often driven by like IP and data that the company has developed. So for example, I think Cadena Legal is training their own thing, and like
Right.
that is where that like secret sauce comes in, and we'll chat about this in a bit as well. But like when you have that custom data or that knowledge that no one has, then that is how you can train something and create value that something like an OpenAI that is not specific can get, that gives you that competitive advantage to you.
And I always ask this, if we were having this chat over a beer, I'd ask the same question, like, what's the monetization model? Like this, is this a SaaS model, or in terms of is it licensed per, I don't know, the complexity of what you're getting it to extract,
Mm.
or how do you monetize around this?
Well, what I've seen in practice that works really well is you do have the everyone's favorite thing, the monthly subscription model, where you pay for, a base thing and you only get limited tokens so that you can't abuse their API keys. But I like the pay for an outcome model. So that's something that I'm implementing with our grant writing tool is instead of paying a consultant like $4,000 to write a grant application, you only pay $99 and get a full grant application draft. So it's
Hmm.
like you can't you don't have the capacity to cap out the API keys or
I
the
was going to
API
say, yeah.
tokens, because as long as you're charging the person more than what it's costing you, then you've got enough profit in the middle, and that's like your basic entrepreneurship. Like as
And
long
I
as you have
know
some sort of profit,
the
good
way
to
you
go.
work in traditional as well, yours is a like a fee for success model anyway. Like
Yeah,
you're
that's
only
right.
paying on win. Is that the same in the with Grantley?
Not for Grantley.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that would be very hard,
yeah,
because then it would be based on a trust system, and
yeah.
I've
Kind of hit
I've
and
learned
miss.
that
Yeah.
people are not super
No,
trustworthy.
that's okay.
But
Yeah, so we've talked about a bit about what you've done in the general R&D space. What have you got that you can share with us in terms of Web3, particularly in the Australian context? Like even just to pull back a bit and say what's your general sense for like the level of enthusiasm and excitement in the like innovation space around Web3, particularly in the Australian
mm,
context, which I know is your daily
yeah,
bread and butter.
that's a great question. I think we had a very strong like hype 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, where there was like that's all that everyone was talking about, and it
Like
very
the
much seemed
NFT
like we
boom.
were, yeah, the NFT boom was happening, and it seemed like that was what everyone was talking about. And like these days, I feel like things have shifted to more of an AI thing. But going back to Web3, I think there's still a very strong need for Web3 solutions, especially because not every problem can be solved with a Web2 angle. And I find now that actually, because the hype has gone down a little bit, you don't have these random tech bros that are just creating Web3 startups for the sake of it because that's what's raising money or, getting investors all hyped up. They're actually using the technology for an actual problem that needs the technology.
Yes, it's horses for courses. It really
It's like
has to be.
completely different. Whereas now the tech bros are doing like AI and they're, vibe coding and putting APIs like for OpenAI or DeepSeek, whatever. And
Right.
then they're doing wrappers instead. So I've been chatting to so many people every week who are creating like OpenAI based like AI wrappers, which is fine. You got to validate your idea
Mm.
somehow. But that
So
Web3 thing is like, I think it's definitely a lot more concentrated on that problem solving.
less hype. I think, yeah, less hype. And so that's definitely one of the traps probably you saw. It's probably a lot of money went down the tube, really,
Mm.
chasing audacious goals back then, perhaps. But
Yeah.
it does
But
feel,
but
sorry,
then
go on.
again, though, I do want to add, I do check pump.fun sometimes and like and all these like, different tokens that are popping up like every single day. Like, you can have a lot of fun on like going on Phantom and all that sort of stuff. But anyways, like there's so much happening in the space. And I think like because that hype is now dead-ish, there's not like this big society thing. Like I feel like the Web3 space is very communal now. Like we're all just sort of having fun with each other, which is like an interesting thing. But then it's like that the tricky part for startups and bringing it back to like who
Mm,
succeeds and who fails. The ones I've seen do well and still alive 2 years after like many crashes and many highs are those that actually are solving problems that need a Web3 solution,
yeah,
but that sell it with a Web2 angle. Like
yeah.
it can be tricky when you know Web3 really well and you know all the keywords and all that stuff to like, bring in Salt Bay it all over the place. But that doesn't help with marketing to users that will use the technology. Like you just have to keep it so simple. Like that narrative needs to be like, this is what you're going to get out of it. It's like, it's selling the benefit, not the feature.
It's
So
outcomes, yeah.
important. Yeah.
Jackson's asked in the chat, what is Web3? Because we are banding these terms Web2 and
There
Web3.
we go. So perfect example. So Web2 is essentially like, your normal internet stuff, like, your Facebooks and all that normal
Google
stuff.
Cloud, Microsoft, etc.
That's it. Like everything that you probably use every day now. Whereas Web3 is a lot more of that decentralization, using crypto, using tokens, using decentralized platforms. Like it's everything that's beyond just like your basic peer-to-peer connections or your basic tech stuff. But there you go, perfect example. Like even now, like we live in a bubble, and so that bubble, if you're building within that and you're using Web3 tech, you have to simplify it for an audience that doesn't necessarily know what Web3 is. They just happen to get the benefit from what you're building.
Okay, so if you're starting to build something today, like a new SaaS product maybe that we can relate to, what would be, how would you start out? Like how do you go about getting funding to do that? How do you even build a business plan? Like,
Yeah, so I've seen over practice that the wrong way to go about it, and I'll start with that, and then I'll go to the good way, is the wrong way is you have an idea and you don't talk to anyone about it, and you go straight to finding a developer or a technical person, and you go, hey, build me this. And then you spend your life savings and you try and get a customer at the end. I think that's the wrong way to do it, and I've fallen for this mistake as well. And you learn from every life experience, but the trick really that I've seen do really well is you reverse engineer it. You first start with a problem, not an idea. And so what I really would focus on is start with the problem. I know we've heard this a million times before, but in practice, and I'll show something in a second. But in practice, it's really all about like, let's see if we can actually get some sort of information from the market that tells us that if we build this thing, it's actually going to get payment for that. Because you don't want to be building something and spending a shitload of money to then have no one purchase that product. Because like business runs on cash flow. And it feels like so many startups forget that. Like you need to build a product that people want. And that is the biggest differentiator. I've worked with so many startups that have built things that then at the end of the tunnel don't have any customers, and then they go, well, shit, I have loans, I have this, I have that, I have
Yeah.
investors that are
Like,
unhappy now
how
because
much money gets
there's
sunk? Like, are we
nothing.
talking hundreds of thousands of Aussie dollars or?
Well, I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I had a client that was working on like a solution for pets. It was very much just like a pet matching system, and they spent close to $500,000 on software development, and the software developers were happy because they got uh, lots of cash for building this thing, and it looked great. But then the problem was when they got to marketing it, they just had no demand, or there was some demand, but it was for a sort of different pivot. And it almost tells you like maybe they should have done that test first and realized that actually there was a market for this angle and actually built the solution for that. Because then they
Yep.
would have gotten to the end of that tunnel and actually had customers that wanted to buy it. And these days, it's so much easier to start a SaaS than ever before. So I'll show you guys something, and this might blow your mind. You might have tried this. You might have tried this already, but I'll give you a little lesson anyway. There
Does
we go.
this concept also work for like other businesses like electrical or anything or
Well, 100%, and I'll teach you something in a second too. But let me do the tech first, and then we can do a service or any sort of business at the end after this as well. So this is a vibe coding tool called Base 44. I've had the best luck with this one so far, but I've tried all sorts of stuff. There's so many vibe coding tools. These are some of them. So what is vibe coding? Vibe coding is a really simple way for you to start building at least a prototype for your tech solution. So if you have an idea for anything tech related, you can talk to these bots now and get a pretty functional prototype. Like you might not get it straight off the bat, but you'll have to have a conversation with the AI. And I gave myself a challenge. I wanted to build a teleprompter app in a weekend. And I really just wanted to build something super, super simple just to learn the tools. I'm not a very technical person myself. I know a little bit of code, but not really that much. But the reason I'm showing you this is because now is a new world where anyone with that technical knowledge can build something useful. So what all I did was at the start of this conversation, I was like, build a teleprompter app. This is what I want. I want clean user interface. I want this, I want this. And I used ChatGPT to help refine this prompt as well. So I went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, I want to build this thing. I wanted to be able to mirror. I want to be able to switch the speed. I want to be able to do all this other shit, right? Anyways, I did not pay $1 to Base 44, and I got something that was functional that I could then use on my phone. Um, so it got the job done. And now that literally took, I think, about 5 replies. There were a couple things that went wrong, so I had to tell the bot that the scrolling wasn't working. But literally, like 6 messages down, it was functional, and I was able to use the app. Now that you were not able to do something like that a few years ago, right? So completely new, completely separate. Another tool, like I've liked Lovable, but I'm not affiliated with any of these, but
Mm.
I would definitely try Lovable. Um, I would try Base 44, and I would try Replit. The others are a little bit more complicated, so if you don't have a technical background, I wouldn't worry too much. Now, someone asked about non-technical stuff. Non-technical stuff is even easier. Say you want to start like any sort of business. Don't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a waste of time. Validate, validate, validate.
Yes, so we've talked a bit about those tools, and I know, Deb, you have done a lot yourself in the automation of your own business. How do we tie this all together? I guess it's all about productivity.
Mm. Well, it's a new age, right? I've always been a technologist at heart, and there's been so many great advancements in the agentic AI space. We don't have any like really like admin people anymore. What you used to need someone that would do invoices and all sorts of other stuff and contracts and and folder setups and all sorts of stuff. And really that stuff is not needed anymore because you can use tools like make.com or Zapier.
I was
And
going to say you on the teleprompter. You the reason you wanted a teleprompter was because you actually moonlight as, or maybe it's not a moonlight, as a producer slash director. Is that correct?
yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, well, I think everyone needs to have a dream, and mine was never to be Grand Queen, but but to be a film director as well. So we definitely keep I definitely keep life interesting, is what I like to say, Matt. Have multiple things going on at any given time. I think it's the ADHD or whatever, but
Uh, I think
um
it's just you're, yeah, highly competent, highly capable.
yeah,
Um,
no, well, these days I'm strong on that content game because that's something that people, I think, I used to be very critical of influencers and the use of social media, but in this day and age, it's almost as important to have a social media presence and to share your knowledge with the world. And although making reels is not my favorite thing, I definitely think for anyone listening, like if you are able to speak to to the camera, even if it's bad at first, then I would highly urge for you to share your knowledge with the world. It is very, very handy.
And Royden's just asked, do you have an X account? I think you might be, yeah, I was going to say. So it's at Deb Does Things,
Yeah.
at Deb Does Things on X. So yeah, no, you've got to be present there. Keep those questions coming. If anybody's got any questions they'd like to throw in to try and tease some of the expertise out of Deb's very, very big brain.
Yeah.
It's easy to talk to Deb because she just has so much knowledge to share. I did
Well,
ask, sorry, go
I'll
on, Deb.
I'll I'll show I'll show you guys what some like a little highlight of how I use Make. How about
Mm,
that?
mm. Yeah, I'd love that.
So I think you'll be able to see this in a second.
Yeah, it's
Anyways,
coming up.
just so it's loading. I hope it won't take too long, but this is my so I actually have used Zapier before. I didn't really like it. I do prefer Make. You can you can see I have a few things to fix, but at a high level, like this is how many scenarios are running at any given time. So we've got like automations when it comes to like Facebook and all sorts of stuff. We've got folder creations, contract drafting. We've
Not
got
having played with this in this level of detail, but I've done, I've done like things like SQL reporting and put, a bit of database work in the past. And also, I remember back in the day, I'm old enough to remember. Do you remember when if this, then that was really big?
yeah, well,
Like,
this
this is like the modern day if this, then that, right?
That's right. If you have basic understanding of like how sort of code works, you can really use this and you can start stacking things like so for example, like this is one that I use all the time. Um we actually we actually get quite this is the most ironic thing. So we actually get lots of traffic from Google from blogs that are entirely AI written, right? I don't write a single blog because I ain't got time for that. Nobody got time for that.
You were telling me.
And ironically, the article that gets the most amount of hits is how to use AI for grant writing, but AI wrote that, so it's like a full circle moment. But when I check like the stuff, it is very interesting. So this one, in principle, what it does, so is you put your topics or you put like any sort of like for this one, I put a link to an article, for example, and then that will go and launch all these automations, which will then use OpenAI's API to then draft a blog. And it took me a while to get the prompt right so that it would come out really, really good and sound like a human and pass all of the AI bot checkers and such. But actually, I think about a year ago, Google released information that they weren't going to penalize AI content anymore because they just couldn't control it. So
Mm.
now it's all about like scale. Like it's it's just getting as many things as you can. So like for example, if I go to article creator, this is a spreadsheet. And I'll just really quickly just show you. This
Royden's
is
after some free IP.
so this is literally like I'm sharing some gold here. Okay.
Oh, I think
So
that
like there's heaps of topics here. Heaps. It's like never ending. And
right.
then if you're smart, you can create images for like each thing. So for example, like, you get very stock images, but
Also, either they're pulling from they're AI generated, or they're pulling from
no, so the AI generated images, you can just tell when people are using them.
yeah.
I have a very strong filter for these things. So if you wanna use the AI for good, you need to be smart with it. So I went to like Shutterstock, or I really like a site called Pixabay. It's really good. Um,
Mm.
there's Pixabay, and then there's Pexels.
This is turning into a fascinating walk around.
Pexels is really good, so you can get like really great videos, you can get really great photos. So I would do something like, I don't know, like a notebook. I'll just give you an example. Anyways, you save this image and you upload it to your WordPress site or your Squarespace, whatever you're using, and download like 40 of them. And then you literally just you create like a column for like your image link. So then, and then you can literally just grab a bunch and then go to data, randomize range. And then every time like your bot goes through the next one. So for example, the next one that's going to be is this one, how to avoid burnout as a startup founder, will be the next blog that comes out on the Granton page, and it will pick this image. So not too bad. It'll fit, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be perfect. This is all about scale, all about scale. So when you
Mm.
take things like this, the moment you learn how to do one, you get better every time. So then your brain will start to open up and think about other ways that you can automate stuff. So like for example, like we've got like sales things where if someone says in an email that they're interested in XYZ, a bot will read that email, process the email, and then it will tell, it will do things based on whatever that is. So let's say, for example, they're interested in grant writing, it'll launch this scenario. But if they're interested in R&D, it will launch this scenario.
So
If
what
they're
inputs are they giving without diving too deep? Like, how does it know that?
you just get a bot to read the email, because
Right,
there
right.
are there are now AI agents that you can build that can read emails, process them, summarize them.
All
Um,
about the language.
that's it. And the moment you learn how to do one, you can do many others.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of like automation when it comes to like transcripts are huge now. So I know some of you probably are using Firefly's AI or other things that you can use as well. They're really handy because you've got a good amount of information, and obviously you don't want to leak anything, but let's say you have a leads call with someone, and this is very good for early days in your startup if you're building something, is you don't need an admin person to, create folders for you or to add it to your lead spreadsheet. You can get all this automated. So then
Yes.
even though that might only take you 30 seconds times by, however many times you get a lead in does add up very quickly. So then you can save yourself some time and more time for pina coladas.
Well, that's
So
what I know. You live near the beach, so it literally means you could go down the beach maybe an hour earlier at the end
that's
of the day.
right. And have more time for yourself.
But with all of this, what do you think? What does it mean? And bringing it back to the Web3 context, if we can, but what do you think these wrappers mean? Like, is this I know that's you obviously demonstrated how that's helping you in your business, but for a
Mm.
Web3 founder, is this helping them build something like? How do you get unique? What's the uniqueness, or what's my angle that I can work? To stand out from all the rest.
Well, the good advantage with Web3 at the moment is that AI is not really that nifty with any sort of Web3 tech yet. Like it is very complicated to work with any sort of decentralized technology at the moment. It's very good for like your basic apps, like if you want to make a poem writer or like a songwriting tech, or like your sort of like your think of like your basic Web2 tech, just slightly more AI-ified. Then then all of these like base 44s and your vibe coding tools are really good. But when it comes to Web3, I think like the areas that I think will get heaps of buzz at the moment anyway is like, where can you put your own information, like your own knowledge, even maybe any proprietary data that you might have, to then build that into the Web3 ecosystem. It's not so much about building tokens. I think we have to be so careful with tokens, because you can get washed away by users that only want to get rich. Like it
And you've
is
seen
such a
this from the inside, like you've seen this from the inside
yeah,
of Web3 projects.
it is such a slippery slope, and I think Web3, we've got amazing technology and so many problems still to solve. Like even for example, like cryptographic wallets are way too complicated. The fact that we still have problems with security blows my mind. Um, like even the other day, I saw there was a streamer that accidentally leaked his seed phrase, and he got like $150,000 stolen from him in like seconds. Like that seed phrase was up there for like a quarter of a second. So these are the problems. And I think like for anyone that has a Web3 background, it's a perfect time to get in because right now it's not noisy. Everyone's distracted by creating OpenAI wrappers, which pretty much means that you're creating your own user interface, but all that you're doing in the background is say using make.com, for example, to create that outcome where, I don't know, let's say it's like to create a blog post, and I call it like Blogly or something. And if you go to Blogly, you can put in like your topic. Let's say it's like, how blockchain reacts in the real world or whatever. And then it pumps out a blog for you and you pay like $5 or something. Simple, it just uses the OpenAI API. But if you're doing that, you're going to get washed out in like seconds. Because what stops OpenAI from just improving their model or killing that model, and all of a sudden you're left out in the dust? But Web3 is not as easily replicable.
Yeah.
You can't read like there's a good moat still. And I think like if people focus on solving problems that actually need Web3 solutions, then that is the key ahead.
Yeah.
So, I see a lot of opportunity with tokenizing things like, your property, your assets, like all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of really exciting things happening with supply chain tracking. I'm seeing this in my own business, like working with clients that are building some really cool tech that actually genuinely needs Web3 solutions for it.
Things like
Um,
purchase order management, that kind of stuff. I'm seeing some good
yeah,
startups.
exactly. Or like logistics management, or even like
Yeah.
tracking, where you get your coffee beans, like all sorts of
Exactly. Yeah.
stuff.
I mean,
But the
just sorry to
trick,
interrupt. The way I kind of broadly put the AI distributed ledger intersection is that AI can make a distributed ledger perhaps a little bit more dynamic, especially to the end consumer. But the
Mm,
blockchain slash DLT can provide more certain outcomes, certainly, and obviously when you're talking about cross-border trade, etc., those use cases are long-standing and well known. But sorry, I cut you off.
yeah, no, but totally. I think creating invisible Web3 experiences is key. I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
I think I'm seeing this as well. The startups that do really well in the Web3 space, at least the clients that we have that are, getting lots of funding, getting lots of, opportunities, partnerships, and so forth, they're not explicitly saying they're Web3. Like
Yep.
they just happen to be using Web3 tech because that was the best thing that they could think of to solve that problem. And so
Yep.
then when you do that and you're actually doing something useful is governments start backing you. You don't need to say that you've got crypto and you've got all these things. Like you don't need to say anything. It's focusing on the benefit that like humanity is getting from it. So from like a grant perspective, bringing it back,
Yes.
that full circle thing again is if you are building something that actually genuinely needs like a decentralized platform to solve a problem that people are having, then you don't need to specifically say that it's Web3. Like we get so caught up with like, it's like it's the 1,000 songs in your pocket versus like, the bit rate at which the song is playing. Like we don't care. Like
Yep.
people
That's
don't
very
care.
true.
And I think like even though like the fellows may have been a little bit annoying earlier, the fact that they didn't know Web3 is like, and these guys are in here, tells you that the majority of the world doesn't even know what Web3 is. They couldn't even fathom what that means.
Yeah, I think he
They
actually wanted to
probably
know what blockchain is. Yeah.
even though they may have heard of an NFT or they may have heard of blockchain, they have no idea what that means. And so it's like, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Tech does not matter. I mean, maybe to
Yep.
an investor, but they're going to want to see your results anyway.
Yeah,
Like,
it is
oh,
outcomes. And I know we've talked about this before when we did our in-person event that, and I've met quite a few VCs again, just in my recent trip to Singapore. You know, it feels like, not, I guess money is tight, but it is also that you're going to be ridden hard by a VC for the outcomes. But Ian has put in a good question. I think it was Ian from, was it Latvia or one of those Eastern European
I
countries?
love
But
that last name.
yeah, thank you.
Postala.
Yeah, thanks for dialing in. Ian asks for Ion, for someone just learning blockchain, what will be trending in the next 2 to 5 years, just not to focus on already past trends?
That's a great question.
2 to 5 years feels like a long runway in distributed ledger space.
100%. And I think I definitely see AI and blockchain crisscrossing at some point. Like I just feel like it's unavoidable. Like I think I think AI will start getting integrated into more Web3 technologies. I think there's like literally no no way around it. I think the whole digital ID thing, as much as I'm not a big fan of it, will be something that I think will get a lot of attention. A lot of governments want blockchain, and they may not seem like it, but it's a great way of controlling the system, but also like, for potential tokenization. I think our world will slowly start getting very tokenized. And like your cars, your houses, your assets, like it will be so easy to prove that you own things. And right now there is that there's a lack of transparency, and I think security will be huge. So
Yes.
like if I was like, wanting to get into I guess learning about something, I would definitely learn about how AI and Web3 can be used to make stronger, secure systems. Because like imagine with deep fakes and how AI can be used for evil, Web3 might be the only way that we can tell reality from fake.
There's a thought. There's a thought. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very strongly interested in the media space, and the media space is moving very, very quickly. So I don't really have an opinion on like mining or anything like that because I don't know enough about it to talk about it. But when it comes to for example, the entertainment industry, it is moving so fast. And imagine, we've already seen like videos of presidents doing weird things. We've seen cat videos morphing like crazy, and it's like, how can we possibly tell that that is real or not when the AI becomes so realistic? Same with your outputs. Like, how do you even know that the person in like how do you know if I'm real? Like the avatars are getting that good that they can
Yes, I've seen some
simulate,
just this week. Yeah, actually,
you know
where
what I
the
mean?
yeah,
Um, and I think Web3 might be the solution for that. So
that's
Ian, I,
very
I feel
interesting.
like that could be a good
There's
thing to
a
look
there's a
into.
potential moat. There's a potential moat for sure.
Yeah. Maybe that's the next billion-dollar company, the one person billion-dollar company that solves that.
I mean, you mentioned identity, and I know definitely various countries are looking at certainly in nuanced application, putting more stuff on chain. For example, in the Philippines, there's something like 5 or 6 bills before Parliament at the moment where they want to actually adopt blockchain-related technologies to do exactly things like you mentioned, improve grants management or tracking, identity on chain. As you say, some of that comes with a little bit of controversy as to privacy.
Mm,
But yeah, the governments that I see certainly in many countries are quite interested. So yeah, it's
yeah,
been a
it's
really interesting
interesting
chat.
times. It's interesting times. I think this whole digital ID thing will be a good or a very, very bad thing. Yeah. I don't want to get too political, but
No,
I'm not the biggest fan of it. And I know a lot of people that are in the crypto space don't like it as well because the more technology there is, it's not always a good thing.
yeah,
There will be more surveillance, there will be more control, and the overlords may not be very happy, may not be very kind to people, but that's something to consider anyway. But I think Web3 has definitely a space in the long run for sure. it's not going away.
Any final questions? I think we've had a fantastic chat of everything from Australian gathering funding, in the Australian context, to how to write automations in mate.com. We've covered a whole heap of territory with Deb tonight, and we thank Deb and Granton for
Yeah, of
bringing
course.
so much experience to the table.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love having a no filter chat. Like, and it's always so unexpected where we go, Matt. It's
This
great.
is live. This is live. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap. Okay, this has been Granton's AMA, the online event with all things blockchain for October 2025. Big thanks to Deb, and we thank everyone for joining, and we'll see you at the next one.